الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what's so proudly we?
American Muslims have never committed any crimes against the United States of America or its people. Yet today, American Muslims are facing unprecedented attacks on their religious freedom by hate groups, front organizations, and self-styled representatives who promote Islamophobia by using deceit, false propaganda, and media terrorism as weapons in their crusade against Islam. This widespread conspiracy is having a detrimental effect on traditional American principles due to the perverse interpretation of laws manipulated to infringe on the civil liberties of all Americans. Innocent American Muslim communities are subjected to illegal spying reminiscent of the McCarthy era by rogue law enforcement agencies such as the New York Police Department or NYPD, who work outside of their jurisdiction, functioning and operating covertly on an international level. In the book, Enemies Within, inside the NYPD's secret spying unit and bin Laden's final plot against America, authors Matt Apuzzo and Adam Goldman, winners of the Pulitzer Prize for investigative reporting, used previously unpublished secret NYPD documents and interviews with intelligence sources to demonstrate the NYPD's faulty strategies for fighting terrorism. As seen in recent lawsuits against the NYPD, thousands of American Muslims are illegally profiled, senselessly targeted, and secretly infiltrated by unscrupulous informants paid to permeate an unknowing community where they often attempt to serve as a catalyst for illegal activity that would otherwise not take place. One such informant, Ali Abdelaziz, was planted within the Muslims of America Incorporated, or TMOA, a peaceful, indigenous American Muslim community founded by His Eminence El-Sheikh Saeed Mubarak Ali Shah Gilani over 32 years ago. In the book Enemies Within, the authors describe Abdelaziz's recruitment. The NYPD recruited him in 2002 when he was a 25-year-old sitting in a Colorado jail cell on charges of document forgery. Abdelaziz became an asset in the NYPD's long-running investigation into the Muslims of America. He was among Cohen's, David Cohen of the NYPD, most important and best paid informants, earning by his own account hundreds of thousands of dollars for his efforts. Cohen wanted to share Abdelaziz, who was known in files as confidential informant 184, with the FBI so that he could work overseas. The Bureau agreed to sponsor Abdelaziz and provide him with a special green card so he could enter and leave the United States. He worked in Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, and elsewhere. But the more the FBI worked with him, the more suspicious they grew. Abdelaziz was later proved by the FBI to be dishonest, promptly disowned by the NYPD, and terminated. With no further payments from his employers, the fraudulent Abdelaziz found his way to Martin Moyer, president of Christian Action Network, who utilized him as a primary source for an inflammatory book about TMOA called Twilight in America. The aim of this growing trend of oppression against American Muslims is to use front organizations to incite fear, violence, and hatred between Christians and Muslims in order to pave the way for a breakdown of America from within by its enemies.
Building a workable death ray.
What is the aim of these front organizations posing as Christians and die-hard American patriots? Their aim? Damage the image of Muslims, incite fear, violence, and hatred between Christians and Muslims. Media deception carried out via books, blasphemous movies, libelous internet sources, and sensationalized news channels. A Washington, D.C. reporter presented herself to the Muslims of America as a mouthpiece of truth, determined to dispel the lies and report the facts. On August 26, 2013, a reporter who identified herself as Andrea McCarran of D.C. sent an email requesting an interview to the Muslims of America Public Relations Director Matthew Gardner in Red House, Virginia. Gardner, pleased with the opportunity for truthful representation of the indigenous American Muslim community, invited McCarran and her crew for an intimate visit inside the Muslims of America village in Red House, Virginia.
Prior to my interview with McCarran, I supplied her with documents with information about the community, its programs and data, to refute many of the lies previously reported in the media. We, the Muslims of America, we were ready to set the record straight.
Unfortunately, when the report aired, it was the same propaganda against TMOA with an eerie, familiar regurgitation of false information and innuendo designed to build fear amongst unsuspecting viewers. McCarran's expressed intentions in her interview request were apparently long forgotten, as she failed to produce a report that would provide viewers with the truth. Never once does McCarran state that all allegations regarding Pearl and El-Sheikh Jelani were proven false. If McCarran had done the job she supposedly set out to do, she would have not only reported on El-Sheikh Jelani's innocence, but educated viewers on the recent arrests of those actually responsible, totally exonerating El-Sheikh Jelani.
Unfortunately, what occurred was that over a 2-week period, Sheikh Omar, who has quite a history involved in the kidnapping, the hijacking of airplanes out of India, and affiliations with various hardcore jihadi organizations, had very carefully plotted and planned this kidnapping of Danny. He had set it up where he had given Danny information and promised this interview with Sheikh Jelani, which Sheikh Jelani, as it turned out, had no idea his name was even being used.
When 15 minutes went in the interview, our feelings were that Sheikh Jelani was not involved in this. Sheikh Jelani was not involved in this. Was not involved in this.
Who is Frank Spano, the so-called DC expert from the investigative project on terrorism, which provided McCarran with information that she has seemingly taken at face value to support the report's baseless claims? What is this organization? Who do they represent? How are they funded? The investigative project on terrorism is headed by journalist Steve Emerson, and at first glance gives the appearance of an authority on terrorism in the U.S. Their website claims the organization is recognized as the world's most comprehensive data center on radical Islamic terrorist groups, with their research forming the basis of thousands of articles and television specials on the subject of radical Islamic movement and terrorism.
The Nashville newspaper The Tennessean reports that Mr. Emerson has a for-profit company called SAE Productions and a non-profit group called Project on Terrorism Foundation, which takes contributions and tries to link American-based organizations to international terrorism. The problem is Mr. Emerson's non-profit, The Tennessean reports, paid Mr. Emerson's for-profit corporation $3,400,000. As the head of a non-profit watchdog group noted, here's the quote, "You have a non-profit acting as a front organization and all the money going for a profit. It's wrong. This is off the charts." The gist of this is many counter-terrorist experts and groups warning about the so-called Muslim threat aren't just stoking fear, they're stoking profits. As I propose.
In 1993, after the first World Trade Center bombing, Emerson incorrectly identified the wrong group as responsible for the tragedy. In 1996, he claimed to CNBC that it was a bomb that brought down TWA Flight 800, an incorrect assertion. The year before, after the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, Emerson presented his expert theory that the carnage was the work of a Middle Easterner. Wrong again. Over the years, having been publicly discredited numerous times, Emerson and the Investigative Project on Terrorism have no leg to stand on. Journalists who believe in and practice the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics are honest, fair, never distort content of news, photos, and video, and admit mistakes and correct them promptly. The Muslims of America hope to provide McCarran the opportunity to correct the harm done with the report, and thus contacted her to discuss. She did not return phone calls. Instead, News Director Fred D'Ambrosi of WUSA 9 returned the call, but responded with further questions about the political views of El-Sheikh, eventually offering a chance to respond. Declining the offer, the Muslims of America expected a fair and truthful representation in the first report and see no reason to provide another opportunity to attack the community via media arms.
One of the most widely shown images used against El-Sheikh Jilani is the videos of the Kashmiri independence training. What the enemies of America fail to communicate is that the Muslims of America has nothing to do with the video clips shown. The fact is, they are training courses organized by Kashmiris decades ago in their struggle for independence, as is their right according to the United Nations Commission for India and Pakistan, which was signed in and supported by America at the United Nations and adopted August 13, 1948 by the UN Security Council. According to international law, the declaration granting plebiscite to the Kashmiris provided them the right to rise against illegal occupation of their homeland by India. El-Sheikh Jilani himself belongs to the Jilani family of Kashmir and has visited refugee camps and given them moral support and prayed for them as their spiritual guide. As a matter of fact, many notable organizations and humanitarians, such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have too visited Kashmir to show support for their cause and to help the refugees with money, medicine, food, and clothing, all while keeping the United States government abreast of the trips and purpose of the visits. Perversely, groups like CAN and journalists like McCarran show these freedom fighter videos from dozens of years ago as if they are a community of American Muslims preparing for battle against their own country, a far-fetched lie of mass proportions. Similarly, the United Nations General Assembly of 1980 passed a resolution protesting the illegal Soviet incursion into Afghanistan. 34 Islamic nations adopted a resolution that called for the immediate, urgent, and unconditional withdrawal of Soviet troops from the Muslim nation of Afghanistan. The Pakistan and United States governments, led by General Zia-ul-Haq and Ronald Reagan, requested El-Sheikh Jilani to hold conferences throughout the United States, Canada, and Pakistan in order to garner support for getting the communists out of Afghanistan. It was fully endorsed, sanctioned, and initiated by both governments. The video clip pertaining to Afghanistan that is being shown is El-Sheikh Jilani's caliphs who appear sitting in an apartment which still exists today in Murree, Pakistan. The video distortion misrepresents the facts of Afghanistan by taking the world events of that time out of context in that it had nothing to do with the Muslims of America per se, but everything to do with El-Sheikh Jilani fulfilling the requests of the governments of the United States and Pakistan, as had many around the globe during that time of severe oppression for the people of Afghanistan. Regarding the D.C. sniper and Richard Reed, why doesn't Ms. Andrea McCarran, the WUSA 9 news reporter, ask her authorities in D.C. about them and their objectives? What are they trying to prove or provoke by churning false accusations such as this? McCarran should have stayed in D.C. and asked authorities for the outcome of the investigation of those people so she could learn the truth is that there is no connection to the Muslims of America. The truth is, El-Sheikh Jelani has rendered upstanding service to Americans for the last 32 years. Thousands have been helped, reformed, and educated, as was the aim when the humble community was founded. The Muslims of the Americas was founded by Imam El-Sheikh Saeed Mubarak Ali Shah Jelani and is comprised of indigenous American Muslims. El-Sheikh Jelani is indeed a Sufi master and direct descendant of both the Holy Last Messenger, peace be upon him, and Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jelani of Baghdad, who established the Qadri Sufi order. In late 1979, El-Sheikh Jelani arrived in America from Pakistan. El-Sheikh Jelani noticed that the Brooklyn, New York, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania neighborhoods where many Muslims lived were steeped in crime, drugs, and no recognizable status for women. He thus set out to educate the American Muslims in all aspects of the complete way of life, al-Islam. The presence of El-Sheikh Jelani introduced a new focus on inner spirituality, a sense of community, and a rising involvement in humanitarianism. He saw the need for an innovative solution to maintain the progress, peace, and religious freedom, and thus assisted the American Muslims in establishing their own villages. In Hancock, New York, several acres of rural land was purchased to serve as an oasis wherein the American Muslims could raise children and develop a peaceful community bond without crime, immorality, drugs, and the negative elements that were deteriorating families in the ghettos. Consequently, El-Sheikh Jelani instructed a group of his followers to form the Muslims of the Americas Incorporated as a new independent Muslim community that could come together in worship of Almighty God and practice Islam. Indeed, many miraculous manifestations have come to the community of Muslims of the Americas, serving as a warning for the oppressors of humanity who profit upon the misery of human beings, and glad tidings for the oppressed, that salvation lies in righteous conduct and sincere worship of the one Almighty Creator. As affirmed in the books of early Sufis, a divinely sent reformer or leader such as El-Sheikh Jelani is always supported by divine miracles. Over the years, the Muslims of America community has been favored with many divine manifestations, culminating in a great event in August 2010. 1996, Shaban 13th. While waiting for a special prayer being sent via fax from the archives of Gawz-e-Azam Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jelani, Allah bless his countenance, by His Eminence El-Sheikh Saeed Mubarak Ali Shah Jelani, several participants of the BNI Ladies Winter Camp, including teacher Honorable Amira Najjar Begum Rahmatullah Alayha, witnessed a bright light rainbow appearing on the ceiling of her kitchen. The names of Almighty Allah and the Holy Last Messenger, peace be upon him, were inscribed in impeccable Arabic script and in radiant layered rainbow colors. Her home will later be named Beit Nur, Holy Shrine, as a result of these miraculous manifestations. 2003, February. A Palestinian Muslim, Muhammad Najjar, and his Christian wife, June, visit Beit Nur after Mr. Najjar had been diagnosed with lung cancer and given only 3 to 6 months to live. Muhammad Najjar entered the shrine and in quiet solitude spoke to the one Almighty Creator, Allah. June saw the miraculous manifestation of the name of Allah and His Holy Last Messengers emblazed on the wall in rainbow colors. Her husband was completely healed and his condition termed an AOG, Act of God, by medical professionals.
My name is June Najjar, Muhammad's wife, and the last part of February we went to take him to the hospital because he was hurting real bad in his stomach. And the doctor sent in a lab technician to do some blood work, and he did the wrong blood test and found out that he had something abnormal in his blood. So they sent him to have a CAT scan done and came back and told me and my husband that we need to contact our children, that he had cancer and only had maybe 3 to 6 months left to live. I think it was a Saturday that we went down to the shrine, and
22 February.
Yeah. And then we went down there and they showed us, showed us around, and we looked at the different rooms and things, and that was on a Saturday, and then that Monday he had to go have surgery done. So, and then when they went in and took out 3 things that were big as walnuts, and they tested them and said that from the initial test it did not look like cancer. And then they put him in a recovery room. That late afternoon the pathologist came back and told us that 100% sure that it was not cancer. But initially they said it was a 99.9% that it was from what they saw. And I was amazed because, it was just, I know my God healed him from cancer. There's no doubt. I know that with all my heart. With every part of my being, I know this. And so it was really odd. It was really different, to experience something like that. And then the Saturday, whenever we went to the shrine, this lady over here took me in there and she showed me, the different rooms and stuff, and she showed me we went to some room where there was a couch, I think it's like in the back part, and we came up into a hallway and was getting ready to go out, and on the wall, it looked like, at first it was like, I had to look at it a couple times because I'm thinking, they're telling me about all these things that people had saw in there, and I'm like, these people are crazy. I was thinking in my head, I said, they're just trying to do all this to get people to come and look at this place, thinking it's some kind of special place, and seeing things, they just crazy, off the wall, lunatic people, And then when I went into the hallway, I was looking at the wall, and it had like a white line coming down, and then olive, like in a rainbow color at the end part of it. And that's what I saw. I might have it upside down. That's what I saw. Right there. And I put my hand up against the wall to see if it was a shadow or a light coming from somewhere else. And then she must have thought I was stupid because I kept looking around to see if there was a light or a reflection of a picture, just anything that was abnormal that looked out of place that would put the reflection on the wall. And I put my hand up to it and there was nothing there. It wasn't on my hand, like, you like now you can see the light, you can see light on my hand, but you couldn't see anything, but it was on the wall, but it really wasn't on the wall. And it was really odd, that it was there. And then I think that's all I have to say.
What were the colors?
This is what I saw when I went to the shrine, except for on this side I saw a more white color on that side.
Then, on August 5th, 2010, in Islamophobia, New York, participants in the Muslim Scouts of America's summer program witnessed the greatest miracle sent in the history of mankind, in which the personal name of Almighty God, Allah, suddenly appeared, emanating on the wall of the masjid, shining brilliantly and clearly visible. The miracle, which is still shining over 3 years later, appeared in response to hundreds of men and women making intense supplication and prayer to Almighty God, bowing down in prostration to plead for mercy and protection for Muslims in distress in America and the world over. Members, the Muslims of America, are forever thankful that decades ago, under the wing of El Sheikh Jilani, families were released from oppression, nationalism, and racism, then removed from filthy, crime-ridden ghettos in exchange for serene Muslim villages and a new way of life. It is unnecessary for New York Police Department or any other agency to place undercover operatives within Muslims of America. If there is a desire to know his community, visit any of the Muslims of America villages, as the FBI and other major law enforcement have done. Over the years, El Sheikh Jilani has continued to rid the community of those who do not follow the law, for his commitment to a peaceful Muslim community living in their country of America has never faltered over 32 years. The El Jilani methodology, or EGM, is a standardized system that utilizes select portions of the Holy Quran, supplications, and spiritual exercises to cure so-called incurable diseases. EGM was pioneered by Sheikh Saeed Mubarak Ali Shah Jilani in 1976 as a result of a scientific and clinical experiment performed under the auspices of the World Health Organization in Taif, Saudi Arabia, at the behest of their government. EGM has been scientifically proven to heal those suffering from AIDS, schizophrenia, depression, chronic and acute physical illnesses, cancers, neurological disorders, and chronic pain, to name a few. Sheikh Jilani expounds on this in his dynamic book, Ultimate Fraud of Fraudists, by explaining that the crux of Sufic sciences is based on the following declaration: my body is a product of my soul, not my soul a product of my body. Sheikh further elaborates on the sources and effectiveness of the healing contained in divinely revealed Holy Scriptures, which is the basis for EGM. The words of God, glorified and exalted is He, have healing for all the creatures, especially man. The healing energy of the words of the Almighty, glorified and exalted is He, is immediately released when read over or administered to the patient according to the Jilani methodology. Inorganic causes of disease shall be healed irrespective of color, caste, religion, and nationality of the patient. As part of Muslims of America, the Muslim Scouts of America, MSA, were among those immediately dispatched to New York City on September 11, 2001, to help first responders attend to the victims of the tragedy.
Fire department and how they perceived us and how they took us was very surprised and very happy to see a Muslim scout from upstate New York, that we came as far as from upstate New York to assist and help, as far as ground zero, to assist in carrying concrete and moving water. We went to a lot of Red Cross shelters, and the shelters were packed with people.
In 2005, members of Muslims of America were dispatched to New Orleans to aid in the cleanup and rebuilding of the city after the devastation of Hurricane Katrina.
We were there to help rebuild lives. We watched tears of frustration turn to tears of joy. That is what the American dream is all about, believing in each other and working hand in hand to make things happen.
After the catastrophic 2005 earthquake in Pakistan, the American Muslim Medical Relief Team, AMMRT, gathered a staff of doctors, nurses, medical supplies, and donations, then put off their personal affairs to aid the victims of the disaster at the IU Medical Hospital.
There was one particular family that stood out because of how much the family suffered. Originally, it was a family of three, a mother, a father, and a son. The father was lost during the earthquake. The mother and the son went to a refugee camp, and they were accommodated in a tent because they had lost their home and all of their belongings. On a very cold night, they started a fire to keep warm, and in the middle of the night, the tent caught, and they suffered severe burns. They came to the hospital. The mother had 90% of her body was severely burnt, and she didn't make it throughout the night. The young boy, who had already lost his arm due to the earthquake, was also severely burnt. We were able to offer very good care to him, and he survived.
At home, it was Muslims of the Americas who were instrumental in helping feed, clothe, clean, and rebuild neighborhoods for victims of the massive flood in Binghamton, New York, near Islamophobia in 2006. While the devastation had touched every corner of the county, Islamophobia was safe and unaffected. So Muslims of America members felt a great duty to reach out to neighbors in need.
Binghamton, being a resident of this area, it kind of was close to home. I had a lot of co-workers who lost their homes and whose property was damaged, and it really affected a lot of people around me, their lives. So being our goal in being humanitarians and helping you know, our fellow man and helping our neighbors, it was only natural that, you know, we would respond to the tragedy of the flood for Binghamton.
25 years ago, Sheikh Jelani developed a summer program for ladies to receive comprehensive Islamic education courses that focus not only on academics, but the etiquette and proper conduct expected in life as a daughter, mother, wife, and citizen. Banato Noah International, translated as Ladies of Light, has been instrumental in the lives of thousands of ladies by giving them a key to success in this life and the next.
I remember wanting to be a part of Banato Noah International, in 1995. It was from there that really changed my entire life. I worked very hard within the organization Banato Noah International, and I eventually became an administrator of the organization. Banato Noah International has inspired me not just to want to seek a deeper Islamic education, but also a secular education. It has inspired me to not settle for anything less and to reach for the highest potential. And I really am thankful to Sheikh Mubarak Ali.
The humanitarian efforts around the world and over decades show consistency in the message and mission of Sheikh Jelani from the beginning of his mission up until present day. Of course, as in any organization, there are those who did not follow as they were criminals and committed crimes, many of which have since been rightfully caught and justice served. Some may still be doing so, but the immaculate guidance of Sheikh Jelani never wavers. No one knows anything about Jamaat al-Fukra, as it is the media's method of character assassination and ongoing hatred for Islam. Although it is known that Sheikh Jelani and members of the Muslims of America have not committed even one terrorist offense against America, the hate campaign will not end. Nevertheless, Sheikh Jelani commits that there will be no retaliation from his American Muslim followers, as the enemies of America and Islam want nothing more than to see a Muslim-Christian clash in America. Sheikh Jelani and members of the Muslims of America have suffered harassment and character assassination to diminish their good works.
The Muslims are better than any part of the world. The Americans? Yes. They have more freedom, they have more facilities of life. Where they will go? Okay, they do something wrong in America, where they will go? I don't want them, that's their country. The American Muslims are better off in America than anywhere else, and they will never do anything wrong in their country. That's my directive to you and to them.
Many incidents over the year have shown the intent of the aggressors to push America into chaos by striking fear of Muslims into American society.
Religious background scares me to death.
While making Muslims afraid in their own country due to retaliation.
I was hoping that the person wasn't a Muslim. I felt bad because I was caring more about my image.
By far, the most frequent aggression has been at the hands of the so-called Christian Action Network, CAN, led by Martin Moyer. After the 1990s, CAN, a Christian extremist group believed to have its roots in Zionism and not Christianity, shifted its focus to the Muslims of America and the American Muslim, whom they labeled the enemy. After grappling with his own legal woes connected to bouts with public intoxication, CAN President Martin Moyer turned his attention to the unrelenting harassment of the Muslims of America, spanning many years through many states, and combined with a media assault of false propaganda designed to malign not only al-Islam, but Sheikh Jelani and his followers. CAN attempted to illegally enter the Muslims of America property of Odom, Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina. The video was meant to seek confirmation from residents that they were indeed terrorists. In 2006, CAN callously dropped bundles of leaflets from an airplane on the residential community of the Muslims of America in Red House, Virginia, with no concern for the men, women, and children playing below who could have been lethally injured. During the flyover, Can took numerous aerial photos of the private property, posting the pictures to the internet. June 2007, Christian Action Network stages protests, Sheikh Jelani Lane, Virginia. Posts the locations, including addresses to Muslim of America locations around the country. 2007, Moya gives speech in New York stating,
"We have the locations of many of these compounds on our website. I hope to get you busy."
At the end of his speech, he says,
"We need to recruit patriotic Americans that are willing to stand up, have courage, and fight against them."
Indeed, as a result of this goad by Moya, many of our locations were visited and continue to receive trespassers who wish us harm, as was apparent in Moya's intent, as when he said, "Fight against them." In 2009, 2 Hooters waitresses were paid to spy on the Muslim of America business owners after being told by Moya of Can that the business owners were terrorists. Overtaken by warm hospitality, in contrast to Moya's assertions, the waitresses confessed to the entire setup on film.
We were paid $75 to come in here and pretend like we were interested in pottery and ask for lessons. So a reporter could get in front of drive the Commerce and pretend like we were interested in pottery so he could ask you questions.
So that he could ask you questions about your religion and terrorism. And they were protesting outside. Yeah, they had everything.
So they put y'all up to this?
Yes.
And what was the guy's name?
Martin and Martin. There were 2 Martin.
And what was the name of the organization?
Christian something. Activist Network or something. Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Yeah.
What did they say anything else about us or anything about?
They said that they told us you were terrorists, and no.
Can returns to Georgia to hold town meetings with the Christian neighbors of the Muslim community in order to raise concerns, increase fear, and defame the community.
To then take this documentary and our literature and get it into the hands of the people that can actually act upon that information.
Such tactics cause irreparable damage to the Muslims of America community members since they work, go to school, and even pray with their Christian brethren for peace after tragedies. In October 2012, Moya interviews on Fox and Friends news channel to promote his newly published book, Twilight in America, an incendiary book about the Muslims of America Incorporated. In the interview, Moya spouts lie after lie with no proof, but perhaps worse, the Fox News channel demands none. In February 2013, after years of harassment, the Muslims of America filed a multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit against Moya and the Christian Action Network, asking for full retraction of the lies. Following the filing of the lawsuit, the Muslims of America saw an increase in harassment at all locations, often simultaneously. In Hancock, New York, on June 16, 2013, 2 unknown trespassers with Eastern European accents and concealed equipment in the back of their Mercedes-Benz van unlawfully entered the Muslims of America Incorporated village of Islamburg, driving approximately 1 mile down a private rural path until they reached the community's house of worship. A resident stopped the intruders from further advancing. As they fled the property, the trespassers were observed not following the directions provided. On June 18th, 2 men, Glendon Scott Crawford and Eric J. Fate, are arrested by the FBI on terrorism charges for building a weaponized X-ray weapon of mass destruction
But today, the FBI charged 2 upstate New York men, Eric Fite and Glenn Crawford, a self-described engineer and Klan member, with building a workable death ray.
This particular device would be capable of emitting X-ray radiation. This device would have been capable of doing that and killing people.
The murderous plan allegedly called for attaching an industrial-grade X-ray machine to a specially designed triggering device stored in a truck. The weapon would be mobile, shooting concentrated doses of radiation on unsuspected targets who would die within 2 weeks. Among the potential target sources say Muslims and President Obama.
On the same day as the arrest, a resident of Islamophobia came upon 2 males, one speaking with an Eastern European accent and taking pictures of the property. The individual, when confronted, returned to his vehicle and sped away. The incidents were reported to the state police and the FBI. In Texas, the day of the Albany arrest, a small farming community of the Muslims of America Incorporated experienced a trespasser. The trespasser drove past the village farm repeatedly for approximately 4 hours and eventually entered onto the property uninvited. After misrepresenting himself as a Homeland Security representative, the trespasser informed another community member he was a land surveyor. Shockingly, a few hours thereafter, concerned nearby residents reported to their Muslim neighbors that the man shared that he was collecting information for Mr. Moyer in relation to a book. Indeed, the Muslims in America are under attack by enemies of the United States, who have launched undeclared crusades against not only American Muslims, but also Muslims all over the world. Hate campaigns, Islamophobia, and the manufacturing of weapons of mass destruction using powerful X-ray weaponry is already taking place. Who is profiting from this endless hate campaign? A little-known fact is that Islamophobia has become a very lucrative, multi-million-dollar business. Let it be understood, the Muslims of America have never committed an act of terrorism. Why is there no end to the false accusations and harassment, while the real terrorists, the true enemies of America, are not pointed out? We declare we are not concerned or bothered by these people any more than we are bothered by mosquitoes, because it is fully ingrained in our hearts that if Allah plans to give us some harm, no one can save us. And if He plans to give us some benefit, no one can harm us. It is His promise that for all who follow His way, He will make their life full of peace. They will lead life without fear and grief, and shall be blessed with peace and blessed with provisions. Therefore, we believe in the promise of Allah, and He has emphasized His promise by showing His name in Islamberg, a sign that is actually a warning for those who are churning hatred and Islamophobia. We warn you, ignore this warning, and you will go down in history the way the people of Pharaoh, Thamud, and Lot went down. No one hears anything about them, as their cities were destroyed by the Almighty Creator. Allah be thanked, who allows us to progress, and millions of salams and peace upon His beloved Holy Last Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, the one who was mentioned in Torah as the Messiah, whom the Jews awaited, because it is written that his religion will prevail until the last day, and his followers will be all over the world. However, the Jews denied him, and hence have no homeland, and will never have a homeland, because by occupying someone's land, one cannot become the legal occupant. It is a bitter fact that all of their campaign against the Holy Last Messenger, peace be upon him, is, according to the Torah, against their religion. We asked their rabbis, if Muhammad, peace be upon him, is not the promised one they are waiting for, then who is? Who else came? What does Torah say about him? They waged war against their own religion and holy book, the Torah, as usual, for it is not the first time they've done it. Hundreds of times they violated the commandments of the Almighty, contained in the Torah. They were told to observe the Sabbath, yet they violated it and were turned into monkeys. They were so stubborn and arrogant that Allah had to raise Mount Tur over their heads for them to believe. He sent them manna, salwa, yet they showed ingratitude. We, Muslims, believe in Torah and Gospel, and all earlier messages. Therefore, on what ground is Islamophobia being spread? It's very strange and an irony of fate. This is more than enough for any intelligent person to understand the facts we have given in this documentary.
This segment is being presented by His Eminence Al-Sheikh Sayyid Mubarak Ali Shah Jalani, the Vice Chancellor of International Quranic Open University and the Muslims of the Americas. I have followers in many countries of the world, from the Far East to the Middle East and Africa. The way the Pope is the head of Christians, American Muslims and others have chosen me as their spiritual guide. The Almighty Creator has sent me with many signs, and that is why His name is still shining for the last 3 years at Holy Islamburg, New York. I have full authority and mandate to spread Islam all over the world and to try and remove misunderstandings between Muslims and Christians. A lot of changes will take place soon, and all will see. This is the purpose of this miracle that has never happened in Baytullah in Mecca Mukarramah, and it will keep shining until its objective is fulfilled. I quote from the Almighty Creator's statement that says, "They will never be happy with you no matter what you do until you follow their religion." I would advise these so-called journalists to go and look for terrorists somewhere else. Your heart and eyes become blind when you are asked, and do not seek the truth of how come Muslims are blamed for 9/11 when building number 7 collapsed on its own without anything hitting it. Our Muslim scouts went to help after the tragedy. All have learned there were Israelis found to be overjoyed to see their remote control plane hitting the building. Those Israelis were proven to be Mossad agents working undercover in the United States. Weren't they terrorists? It is apparent Israel was directly involved in the 9/11 carnage. The real enemies of America are being exposed, as keenly explained in the first book in the series, Barbarians Inside the Gate, by Colonel Don de Grand Prix. We have become so accustomed to being under siege by the enemy within that we don't realize that we are in fact in a war to the death, and we are losing not only the war, but our country. We now must define that enemy within, his history, his tactics, and his techniques, chief among them being mass manipulation, coupled to physical and psychological acts of terror. The enemy within now dominates 6 of the 7 M's: money, media, markets, medical, mind, morals. He desperately needs the 7th M, muscle, embodied in our military in its primary function, to defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Of the Barbarians Inside the Gate series, Colonel Don de Grand Prix lays out how a dedicated combine of Israelis, Zionists, and neoconservatives, backed by equally dedicated Illuminati and Blackwater mercenaries, have been at war with the United States since the events known as 9/11 overthrew the U.S. government by an administrative coup. American public always receives false information, false analysis and lies, which force them into wars such as Iraq. For no reason, Americans are suffering and fighting a proxy war for Israel. If this is not terrorism, what is? We declare that anyone who indulges in hatred against Muslims, Christians, or Jews are enemies of America and should not be allowed to bring about clash of religions on our home soil. For many years, I am patronizing the organization, the United Muslim Christian Forum, and trying my best to bring Muslims and Christians together on one platform. We have celebrated with each other the births of Jesus, son of Mary, alayhi salam, and Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them both. The United Muslim Christian Forum is bringing good results and building understanding between the faiths. We welcome others to join, support, and give suggestions for spreading love and tolerance among Muslims and Christians, not hatred. We know that no one who believes in Jesus, son of Mary, could think of hating, as Jesus hated no one. He even refused to throw stones at an adulteress, going so far as to tell his followers, if someone hits you on one cheek, turn the other. Knowing this, what are these extremist Islamophobes posing as Christians doing? They are not Christians. They are enemies of Christians, enemies of Jesus, and enemies of America, who are playing into the hands of the hidden enemy who wishes to bring about a major clash between Muslims and Christians in the United States so that they can bring about their kingdom of David. This is a very bitter reality, and people should wake up, open their eyes, and behold how their TV network pushed the United States into war in Iraq despite no weapons of mass destruction, which was the only premise for going to war with Iraq. Look at the facts. Who gained out of this war? Israel. America has been economically crippled while thousands of American veterans still suffer. They also pushed America to go to war in Afghanistan after creating the incident of 9/11, according to their think tank proposal. They created this situation the same way they manufactured the crises at Pearl Harbor in order to get America to go to war. They once again influenced the minds of Americans by holding Muslims and Saudis responsible for 9/11 and received approval for going to war in Afghanistan. The real purpose of this conspiracy was to free the Jews from the USSR and get them back into Israel and America. This is what is called an open secret, but for this, America was crippled and suffered a very humiliating withdrawal. The American people are paying a very heavy price for fighting the proxy war of the Zionists as they established their one world order, the Kingdom of David. They were actually waiting around in Medina in Arabia 1500 years ago for the promised one. But when he came, they rejected him, saying he's not from the line of Ishaq. It is a pity that the promised Messiah that they were awaiting for did come, and his religion spread far and wide and shall remain till the last day. His name, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the holy last messenger, who was mentioned in the Torah very clearly. There will not be anyone coming to establish the kingdom of David. The only one who will come is the promised Mahdi, who will deal with them. He is yet to appear, but will within a few decades. In the future, I advise all of my followers not to give interviews, but to explain their position through their own outlets. They will be patient and not get incited. Soon, justice will be done. I am not trying to seek help from anyone to protect me from the attacks of false allegations and lies, nor are members of the Muslims of America or students of International Quranic Open University. We seek no one's protection or help. I swear by the honor of one whom I stand, who holds my life and whose blessed name is shining day and night in my holy shrine dedicated to my ancestor Al-Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani of Baghdad, that Islam shall dominate. Nobody can destroy Muslims in America, nor can they wipe out Islam from the United States of America. Not only that, I swear in his blessed name that eventually Muslims and Christians will become one community and their common enemy will be singled out. This is going to happen very soon. Wait for the time, and we will also be waiting. Allah be glorified, who has no son or daughter or partner. And he created everything in heaven and earth and created man to worship him. Every soul shall be brought before him for accountability, and no one has ever been able to save himself from the ill consequences of sin so far. Let people pay heed, knowing very well that the Almighty has chosen the United States of America to manifest his glory in the shape of projecting his personal name. Allah, and that is a sign All who ignored his signs in the past were wiped out. So fear Allah and fear his wrath. That is my mission, for which he is showing his name. He warns people and gives glad tidings to those who believed in him. We Muslims declare that there is no God but one God, Allah, and Ibrahim is friend of Allah. There is no God but one God, and Ismail is sacrifice of Allah. There is no God but one God, and Jacob is servant of Allah. There is no God but one God, and David is Khalifa of Allah. There is no God but one God, and Jesus, son of Mary, is the Spirit of Allah. There is no God but one God, and Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is beloved of Allah, and there is no prophet or messenger after him. We bless Jibrail, the archangel, Israfil, Mikael, and Israel, the principal angels of Allah. We believe in all the past books which were sent down, and scrolls which were sent down on Abraham, Jacob, Joseph, the Torah unchanged, the Psalms of David, Gospel unadulterated, and Jesus, son of Mary, all the messengers of Islam. With this rebuttal, I declare that Almighty Allah has chosen me as Imam from the family of his beloved messenger, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, as he has mentioned in Holy Quran, that he shall raise Imams from descendants of the Holy Last Messenger, peace and blessings be upon him. And he sent me with powerful miracles such as rainbows, isms shining miraculously, and the miracle of the moon. These signs are meant to warn the arrogant, rebels, and polytheists, and also to give glad tidings to the oppressed Muslims. Millions and millions of peace and salutations upon the Holy Last Messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, his descendants, and his walis. Allah be thanked for all the favors and guidance with which he is blessing us. This documentary is only to keep our record straight, as we don't have to defend ourselves against lies. The invisible hand continues to spy against America and Americans in order to bring about a clash and establish their global empire. Every American should be warned against their conspiracies. The relationship between Muslims and Christians should be strengthened, since both are two aspects of the same reality. That is our message, our agenda, and we plan to make peace within the United States of America and at large.